Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So we're doing week 3 of our series. Thank you again, Shirley and Cynthia, for starting us off. This is called The Depth of Abundance. Sometimes our teachings around prosperity and abundance have been minimized in a very unhealthy way. Sometimes prosperity teachings can become just consumerism and greed. That's not what it's about. It's not about getting more stuff. To see, that old thing from the 80s, greed is good, and the one who dies with the most toys wins. That's not prosperity. That's not spiritual abundance. What we're talking about is living fully and freely in the spiritual truth of the universe. And it will demonstrate as financial prosperity. It will demonstrate as peace in mind. It will demonstrate as health in body. It will demonstrate as loving and fulfilling relationships and creative expression in the world. That's what we're talking about today. Sometimes we work it a little too hard. This is not really a joke. This is just a social media post from a young man who's probably in his 30s or 40s. That's young. And he had big beard, just a big guy. I didn't get his name, but he said this. Today, I had 800 milligrams of caffeine. I exercised for 2 hours. I literally ate 80 pizza rolls, 80, and did a face mask. The line between self-care and self-destruction is a fine one, but God, I'm working it hard, brother. I resonated a little bit with that the line between self-care and self-destruction, where we just push ourselves. I'm a type 3 on the Enneagram. We are high-achieving, highly motivated people, and we do a lot. And sometimes I have gotten myself worked up in pursuing what I thought was prosperity, and it was actually something else. It was an egoic-driven need to impress or to prove something to somebody. So let me just start by saying that there is nothing to prove. You don't have to be anything other than who and what you are. Right here, right now, you're enough. You're enough. I'm enough, just as I am. And we live in this world of form. We are having the incarnate experience of spiritual beings. I don't know who it was that said it first, but we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in that human experience, we need money. We need a body that's going to get us where we want to go. We need people. We need relationships. So I'm going to borrow from some wonderful prosperity teachers from our tradition, the New Thought tradition today, starting with Mary Manning Morrissey. And if you don't know her work, I would just tell you that I wouldn't be on this stage if it weren't for her. She and Howard Caesar were prayer partners for, I think they still are, for 40 years. She had found my music and invited me to do some work with her. And at the Big Sky Retreat in 2008, she introduced me to Howard and Diane Caesar. And Howard invited me to come here and sing a song, and well, the rest is history. Not only did she facilitate my invitation to come to Unity of Houston for the first time, but she taught me this thing she calls full spectrum wealth. Full spectrum wealth. Can you say that? Full spectrum wealth. I just want you to put that in your body. That to truly demonstrate spiritual prosperity, that you want 4 areas of life to be working. You want your time, money, freedom, is a language she uses. You want your body to look, feel, act, support you in exactly the way that you want it to. And I'm looking at my dear friend Joey in the wheelchair, and he and I have had a lot of conversations about that, right? And it's work. And for all of us, it's work. Because I don't know, is anybody else aging? Anybody else in the room? I've noticed my body is not always the way I would optimally like to be, but we can begin to improve our freedom and our relationship with our body. Our creative expression. What's the thing you came here to do that just lights you up, makes you feel fulfilled? That is a demonstration of your prosperity. And relationships. Would you like your relationships to be more fulfilling and loving and supportive? You know, you got to be it to get it, right? That's true across all of our abundance consciousness. We have to be that which we wish to see. And maybe you're ready to call in a partner. Maybe it's time that you begin to create that space to welcome in a loving, healthy, romantic relationship. Well, I'm going to tell you how to do that in 15 minutes. Actually, it's true. I'm going to tell you, but the doing and the being of it, because it takes time. It really does. Because what we're talking about is consciousness. What do you know yourself to be? Who do you know yourself to be? And your consciousness will demonstrate to you that which you believe yourself to be. Have you ever heard the old saying that everybody truly gets the love they think they deserve? Yeah, I'm working on that one too. Yeah, that we attract to us that which we feel we deserve. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. My 3 points today, I'm already in the middle of point 1, don't worry. Living in balance, that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second point is open your mind to receive. And the third point, stay the course. So living in balance, I'll be speaking next week too about the way we want to live in harmony with all beings, all creatures, and the planet. That's also a demonstration of our prosperity. But today I want to talk about the way we live in balance. Because so often in our capitalistic greed culture, consumerist culture, we get so far out of balance in pursuing money and worldly goods, don't we? Or is that just me? Is that just the Enneagram 3s in the room? You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. But we can really get out of balance. And so for me, to work in these 4 areas that Mary Morrissey talks about, and by the way, if you would like to have a deep dive on her work, and I will tell you, it has transformed my life around all of these areas. We are offering a class starting today. It's called Prosperity Plus. It's taught by our own Reverend Cindy Klein, and I believe it's going to be in the chapel at 12:30. There will be snacks provided. Just go on over there and check it out. There is no way better that I have experienced to grow and heal your consciousness than to be in a group of like-minded people for a period of weeks to work these principles and take up these practices. End of commercial, but I promise you, you will not regret it if you do go take that class. In John chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus says this, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And then in Matthew, Jesus teaches about the sparrows of the air, the birds of the air, the lilies of the field. They don't work for what they need, they know it's provided. Jesus was inviting us into a kingdom relationship, that we are already a part of this infinite life of God, and when we know it, consciousness, we demonstrate it. We live free from that fear of lack and limitation. We live free and fulfilled. We have all what we need. When we need it, it's at hand. Isn't that beautiful? And that is living in balance. Not pushing or pulling the universe to make it to give us what we want. God is not a vending machine. God is the very process of life itself that knows every hair upon your head, as Scripture tells us, knows all of the trillions of cells in your body and knows when they're done and ready to be released and how to make new ones. All of that is happening right now. How many of you made a plan to breathe that last breath that you took in, make sure you had your oxygen in today? Any of you didn't have to do that, did you? It's available. It is life itself surrounding you, supporting you, living within you, and it's all here. And it can be as easy as breathing that breath around any area of life you want to improve your experience of. I knew I was going to end it with a preposition. I apologize to all the grammarians in the room. You're being invited to a life of balance, harmony, order, enough. If you didn't get to see Reverend Cynthia James's talk last week on what is enough, beautiful, beautiful talk, reminding us not only do we have enough, but that we are enough. Abundance means that our needs are known and met by God. And if you don't like the word God, it's okay. God doesn't care what you call it. You know, it's just a word we made up. It was the road manager for AC/DC. I can't remember his name, but he came up with this quote, which I heard from a stand-up comedian, said that God is just, it's a word. It's like a blanket that we throw over the mystery so we have something to point to. God is beyond names, beyond description, but it's real. And it's loving us, and it's supporting us, and it's living in, through, and as us. And when we open to that divine quality of life, we experience abundance. That our needs are known and met emotionally, physically, relationally, and spiritually. So what's the problem then? That's the truth. Why aren't we fully demonstrating that truth? Anybody got an idea, got a clue, a guess as to what might be going on? This is the audience participation part of it. Anybody have an idea? What was it? Fear. Yeah, fear's in there. Anything else? What'd you say? Faith, or lack of faith might be in the way. I heard somebody else say something. I still didn't hear it. Choice? Is that it? What'd you say? Lazy? Oh, you're taking a page from my book, Enneagram 3s. Yeah, and all the common thing between all that is your mind. What are you thinking? Catherine Ponder is a wonderful Unity minister. I believe she has transitioned. I don't know for sure. If you haven't, glad you're still here, Catherine. She wrote a bunch of thin little books that are just packed full of spiritual power and practice and technique. And she's a prosperity teacher. She was the minister at Unity of Austin for many, many years. And there's one of her books, which I read again this morning. It only took about 30 minutes to read the whole book. It's called Open Your Mind to Receive. Open your mind to receive. And if you don't have it, I think we have it in the bookstore. It's available on Amazon. I got it on my Kindle, like that. I love instant gratification, don't you? But it's full of stories and demonstrations of this principles that if we can begin to open our mind, that is where the block exists. It's a thought that I don't deserve this, I'm not good enough for this, I don't know how to do this. Those thoughts are what block the flow of prosperity in our lives in all those areas. And if we're willing to do the work to change our mind, we can change our experience. Again, easy. Well, it's simple. It's not easy. Because the mind is conditioned in the child's experience. Mary Morrissey talks about this, that in her household, she's like, you know, if other people knew this, but, you know, the early bird gets the, yeah, you lived at the same house I did? Yeah, and then, what's the other one? The early bird gets the worm. Oh. Yeah, money doesn't grow on. Good things come to those who. Now, which is it? The early bird gets the worm, or good things come to those who wait? These are thoughts held in the collective consciousness of humanity. And when we grow up with them, we accept that that's just true. And so we begin to demonstrate the truth that we know, even though it's not the real truth. And we develop a lot. You know, here's the thing. Anybody else collect evidence for your false beliefs? I sure do. If I believe that there's not enough, I will find all the examples of why there's not enough. Automatically, it just happens. And so to begin to change our mind, especially when it's something you cannot see, that song that I wrote that I just sang, I rise on a power I can't see. Man, if you're a rationally oriented person, that is difficult. How do I know it's going to work if I start practicing these prosperity principles? Try it and see. You just have to try it and see. You're not going to get a guarantee saying you do this affirmation 5 times this week and you will get $10,000 in your checking account. It's not going to work that way. It will be a process of rewiring your neural patterns and pathways that will begin to demonstrate, and often, and if you're new to this, I don't know where or how or why, but there's a thing known as prosperity beginner's luck. I don't know how or why, but when I first started it like, wow, things came. The 3 Ps, princes or princesses, palaces, and parking places. People demonstrate, manifest incredible demonstrations of this truth quickly. I think maybe in the beginning we're just, let's try it and see. And then sometimes we talk ourselves out of that try it and see consciousness, and it gets a little difficult. But here's the thing. If you're willing to keep at it, if you're just willing to keep going in this truth, you will demonstrate it. Your capacity to receive and opening your mind to receive, that's the point. Your capacity of receptivity will increase. There's a beautiful story in the Hebrew Scriptures about Elisha the prophet. And there was a certain woman. I'm actually going to read it. I don't want to miss any of the beautiful details in it. This comes from 2 Kings chapter 4, starting with verse 4. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 sons as his slaves." And Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? What do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour your oil into all the jars. As each is filled, put it to one side." She left him, shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars that she kept pouring. In verse 6, when all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went on and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." If you grew up in Sunday school like I did, you knew about that story. Ain't God good? Make a little bit of oil into a lot of oil. I did not know anything about metaphysical Bible interpretation. I didn't know that this was actually holding some key to my own experience of having a more rich and free life. The principle is this: it's receptivity. The oil represents the divine flow of creativity, prosperity, joy, love, all of those things that we want in our lives, all those qualities of God. That's what the oil represents, and it will flow as long as what? We have a space to receive it. As long as we have a space to hold and know the truth of God, and again, this comes to consciousness. Consciousness is the container for good for you. And the moment that she had filled all of the containers she had, it stopped. But she didn't do anything wrong. What does Elisha tell her? Take care of your needs, there'll be more. You'll have all that you need. This is the message of this story, is that God is seeking to reveal its fullness, its abundance into your life all the time if you can make receptivity for it. If you can hold a space in your mind, heart, body to receive the good that God is, you will have it. And so what we got to do is release all those things that are in the way. And there's so many here. This is the work. Michael Beckwith says that our work in spirituality is subtractive, not additive. We don't need to add anything to who we are, but there are some things we've got to let go of. Limiting beliefs, identities, false assumptions about the way the world works. That's what we have to get rid of. So there's just 2 that I want to mention today. Unworthiness and unforgiveness. How can you be holding a space of the flow of loving, creative energy if you're holding people in blame and resentment? You yourself are placing yourself as a block to good by your unforgiveness. Edwin Gaines, another wonderful Unity teacher, minister, she got her start in spirituality right here in this church many, many years ago. She said this: "I have a simple test to see if you have forgiveness work to do. Are you breathing?" We all have work to do to release our holding as any person or any situation as wrong. Do I need to name a politician right now? You got your own, right? If we're holding something as being outside the circle of God, we have forgiveness work to do. And it may seem unrelated to your checking account, but it's not. It may seem unrelated to their sense of lack of support in your relationships. It's not. The more freely you can see the world as a demonstration of God's love and peace and power, the more freely you receive peace, power, love, good. And unworthiness. Do I have time? I'm kind of going on here a little bit, but I'm going to tell you this story. Money was hard for me. Really, really hard. My parents did okay. They never had a lot, but they were tithers. That's another part of it. And they always had enough. We always had new cars. They were Chevys. Then we kept them for 10 years, got a new one. They worked very hard. They really took care of what they owned. They appreciated what they had. And they had what I would call a prosperity consciousness on not a lot of money. We always had big gardens full of beautiful food that we worked really hard in. That was not prosperity to me. But somehow, when I became an adult, money was such a struggle. Awful. I was also trying to be an artist, trying to make my way as a musician and starving artist for sure. I also mentioned there was an alcohol addiction involved. That didn't help. But I really struggled in my 20s with money. Always paycheck to paycheck, debt. My credit rating was ruined, all of it. I owed the IRS money, big part of this. I mean, it was just a bad, messy situation around money. When I was 28 years old, I got hired to sing at a New Thought church when I was singing at a little gay bar in Dallas, Texas. I've told this story 100 times, but I thought, what kind of a church sends their minister into a gay piano bar to find people to sing at their church? I might have found my church. And I did. I was at that church in Dallas, Center for Spiritual Living, for 17 years. And that's where I was introduced to these concepts of prosperity, principles, and practices. Oh my goodness. It did not come quickly or easily, but it came. It came. And I would have moments of great milestones. I remember one week when I had just been working these principles, my very first affirmative prayer was for a better paying gig. And I went from working at Bill's Hideaway for $75 a night to the mansion on Turtle Creek for $150 a night. That was my first demonstration of New Thought practice. By the time I left that world of being a musician, I was making well over $100,000 a year as an independent musician in Dallas, Texas. And I didn't have a record contract, none of that. I had used these principles to build some wealth for myself. Along the way, I had a lot of wreckage I had to clean up. I had some tax years I had not filed for. I had to find a way to do all that. I was filled with fear around it. I owed a lot of money. I had to take care of all that. It took a long time. But those milestones kept happening. And I want to share with you something happened recently, which is another prosperity demonstration for me. In 2020, I received an inheritance from a beloved great uncle. It was not enough that I could quit working, but it really did. It was significant. It allowed me to put down a cash down payment on a new home and put some money away for retirement. And there was a piece of it that was, it was a little unclear. It wasn't just a cash disbursement. There was a piece of property involved, and I didn't know whether I owed taxes on it or not, so I was advised by someone who was not supposed to be giving me tax advice that I should pay a certain amount to the federal government in case. So I prepaid the taxes, and it turns out I didn't owe a dime on it. So I was going to get a large refund. That was in 2020. 2021 came and went, no refund. I started calling the IRS. Anybody ever had that experience? 2022 came and went, no refund. And this was a refund with a comma in it. 2023 came and went, no refund. And I'm starting to get, okay, what is going on here? I have worked on my prosperity consciousness. I have demonstrated the truth, and yet here is something that is mine that is not coming to me. What is going on? And what I found was that there was a little bit of that leftover belief in unworthiness that I was still holding on to. I must have done something wrong. I'm sure I'm the one that screwed this up, and that's why this isn't coming. April of this year, I said, that is enough of that. My mom would say, that's for the birds. I don't know who the birds are, what that has to do with it, but that's what my mom would say. And I decided to put on my big boy pants and get working on this in consciousness, which meant I had to call the IRS a lot. On my vacation, I spent 2 of my vacation days on phone or on hold with the Internal Revenue Service. 9 hours. And that was just 2 weeks ago I did that. But I was determined that what was mine by divine right of consciousness would come to me. Wednesday, it showed up in my checking account. After 4 years, with interest. The interest had a comma in it, which I am tithing to replace these screens. But I will need more than that, just so you know. But you see, I'm still working it. I still have work to do around it in all of those areas that I talked about. And I'm committed to it because I've seen the great expansion of my freedom and fulfillment in life by practicing unity abundance principles. It has changed everything. And I want to keep changing everything. I want to deepen and broaden and expand who I am in this world. And I know that none of you thought this, but I do not have it all figured out. And this that you see today, as cute as it is, it's going to get better. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep working on it. And so my last point was just as I mentioned, stay the course. The most underutilized, undervalued, underpracticed spiritual tool in unity and science of mind and all of New Thought is just this: sustained, diligent effort. I remember a friend of mine came into the church in Dallas one time, and he had lost about 30 pounds. He looked great. I was like, Lee, what'd you do? And he said, well, I just ate less and moved more. And I was like, never mind. We want the easy, quick fix. Consciousness can sometimes move slowly. But just don't quit. Just don't quit. Do you use affirmations? I love them. But they're not quick fixes. They're not magic words. What they're just meant to be reminders that you're working on changing your consciousness. Here's one from Catherine Ponder. Repeat after me, if you will. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to last. Isn't that great? And that comes from her book, Open Your Mind to Receive. If you'll say that every day, every time you have a lack thought, nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to last. It's not going to make stuff out there happen. It's going to remind you that you have made a commitment to change your consciousness. And when you're starting to have those lack thoughts, those separation thoughts, those unworthy thoughts, those resentful thoughts, no, that's not who I am. Come back, come back. You might have to call the IRS, I don't know. You might have to do things that are challenging. Well, I'm going to change that. You will have to do things that are challenging, but you're tough. You're resilient. Do you know that you have a 100% success rate at moving through every challenge of your entire life? You have. You're here. 100% success rate so far. Some of them you're still working on. But look to the past and see you've always been brought through by the spiritual power within you, and it will continue to happen. Mary Morrissey says 3 things that dream builders do. 1, they create with clarity to clarify a specific dream of what it is they're wanting. I wanted that money in my checking account. I was very specific. I was surprised at the amount in a good way. That was good. 2, refuse to stay discouraged. And 3, be more interested in growth than comfort. And that's where we lose most people. To be more interested in your growth than your comfort. Discouraging things will happen. They will, to all of us, no matter how far along we are in our spiritual path. Discouraging things will happen. Mary says, don't stay discouraged. It's okay to be discouraged. It's okay to get discouraged. Don't stay there. You know, it's that thing about will lead me through the valley of the shadow of death. Don't set up camp there. Keep moving. Do not lose heart. I'm going to close with another teaching from Jesus. I've known this scripture my whole life. In the last 2 years, it's just been saving my life. John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And the Christ mind in you will overcome every condition, every obstacle, every circumstance you face. Take heart. You're amazing. Pray with me now. Opening to that divine flow of good as the widow in the oil, we just create a space right now in consciousness together, receiving this knowing of God's good in my very life. And I speak this word over all who are within the sound of my voice in this moment, that space of receptivity widens and deepens. The sense of possible begins to flower and bloom in their life. Those old negative and self-defeating thoughts of, it's never going to be good for me, it's always going to be out of my reach, we begin to let those go. It's just a story that we were told that we have taken to be our own, but it's not the truth of who we are. And so we release all limiting thoughts and ideas, all thought structures of difficulty and struggle. We let those go. And we breathe, breathing deeply into the life of God. And in this next breath, there are 1 trillion oxygen molecules waiting to enter your bloodstream, and all you have to do is let it come in. And in that same manner, each of us is now lifted into a higher way of being, a higher way of functioning in this world, a higher understanding of how beautifully loved and supported we are by God. I'm grateful for this community to hold these teachings for over 100 years and teach generation after generation of this simple truth. God is here. All is well. No matter what we face, God is here. All is well. We rest in gratitude, knowing this truth. We let it be, and so it is. Amen. Oh, I'm so glad to be back with you. I got it almost in time. I'm 2 minutes over. Some of you think we're supposed to have an hour service. We know better than that. We do 70 minutes. But I will tell you, I did good. I had 3 weeks of sermons, and I got it all in with just 2 extra minutes. But I do always want to say this. I know that life can be a struggle. And I know that everyone in this room has a struggle that nobody knows about. And so I ask that we treat each other with kindness and compassion, and ourselves too. And know that if no one today has told you that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.